I'm so excited today to bring on some two fantastic chiropractors who also are in the animal space and kind of open our eyes to how our pets can really benefit from chiropractic care, and it's not just for us. So I'm going to open the floor and have you guys introduce yourselves and what you do, and then we're going to dive into it. I'm so excited.
Uh,
So
Awesome. Well, I'm Dr. Brianna. This is my husband, Dr. Paul. We have a practice that is a cohesive space for people and animals in Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, Florida. We opened about 3 years ago, and it's always been our passion to have health and healing brought to both of those communities. And we see the value and the passion for helping both. So it's been a fun journey so far, but we are really excited to be here today to just talk more about chiropractic and spread the word.
Yeah, and first of all, Dr. Bramanti, thank you so much for having us on. This is
Yeah.
you have such a great community and people that like genuinely care about the well-being of animals. Very, very grateful to be a part of that. Thanks for the invite.
I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad that social media has allowed us to connect and how we both take a little bit of a non-traditional approach and how we can share that space.
Yes.
So I know that you kind of shared about your practice and why you're different. So maybe for those of us that are listening to this that they've never seen a chiropractor and they kind of have an image in their head, can you like tell them like what is truly like care, and maybe what is the biggest myth that you found that people believe about it?
Totally. So, what chiropractic actually is the removal of interference from the nervous system.
Mhm.
So, I'll use my fingers to show you here, but let's say these are two vertebrae in the spine. When one of them shifts out of its proper alignment, it's going to put pressure on the nervous system that's exiting between those two bones. So, by us giving a really gentle, specific adjustment to realign those vertebrae, we're actually able to restore proper function in the nervous system. And what most people don't know is that only 10% of the signals sent in the nervous system are related to pain, which is like crazy, right? The other 90% are all coordinating functions. So that can be like internal organ function, that can be other sensations, that can be mood, that can be chemistry. It's really fascinating. That's always like one of our favorite stats to kind of throw out there because whenever people think that chiropractic is just for like back pain, they're really missing like 90% of like the coolest thing that the nervous system actually does.
And I would say a lot of people, like people, for example, are typically the first to experience chiropractic care, and then some people stumble upon animal chiropractic care, and it's like this whole new world, and it's fantastic. But I would say a lot of people historically have associated chiropractic with pain relief, and it's a good association. We are, humbly really good at that, but at the same time, there's this unlocking capacity within the body that when you can actually get the body to function better, we always say like the body has all the tools needed given the right environment to
Yeah.
heal. And I'm sure you preach this all the time on the nutrition side of things. You got to get that right environment. And so in chiropractic, we focus on the nervous system environment and how can we promote that to get the body to function as optimally as it possibly can.
Yeah.
I think chiropractors are so cool, by the way. Like you guys to me are some of the smartest doctors out there. So I'm just gonna do that.
It's so sweet.
You address things that like if you go, and I will tell you because I know we're talking about pets, but I've gone to see my own chiropractor for one little area, but she doesn't just look at that. It's like the whole body because it's so connected. And I'm really happy that you guys are bringing up the nervous system because we don't talk about the nervous system enough in our pets, and it's a huge part of their health because it's not something we see. And so we
Yep.
think about like their coat health or their food because we can see the food we're putting into them, but we're not thinking about their nervous system, which can affect, it's like this infinity how they just affect each other. And so
Totally.
that leads me to my next question is, what do you feel like there's a topic not talked about enough with when it comes to like pet care or maybe in your world chiropractic care?
Honestly, yeah, we have several, but one that initially comes to mind and exactly what you were just saying, when we focus on allowing the nervous system to heal, that really is like the foundation of the body, right? If we didn't have a properly functioning nervous system, we wouldn't be living and we surely wouldn't be thriving, right? So if we don't have that foundation layer, then everything that we try to do on top of it in taking care of our pets, which can be proper nutrition, it can be supplements, it can be activity, movement, like all of that good stuff, those are like the building blocks. But if we don't have a proper functioning nervous system at the base, then all of those things are only going to take your pet to here where we can unlock that full range. So, like one thing that comes to mind is allergies, and a lot of people blame pollen, right? But it's really like the way we look at it as a three-part system. We have nutrition, we have neurology, and then we have environment. So if we only focus on fixing one of those three, then they're never going to really get through and have that breakthrough with allergies that they are hoping for. We've got to have all three of those parts functioning at optimum so that they don't have that reaction to everything that's around them.
And I'm sure like a lot of pet owners will come to us and they're like, okay, I changed the environment. No longer are we letting the dog lay in pesticides, or we changed the cleaning materials in the house. And that's a lot of what we think with environment. And then we have a different situation where they changed the food and they went maybe from one kibble to another kibble, or all the different changes that a lot of different owners will go through. And they're like, oh, we saw some improvement, but oh, these hot spots aren't away, or their digestion, they still have really runny stools. And it's definitely a battle to get through it, but when you can get that trifecta, and a lot of times what people are missing and animals are missing is the neurology component, which is where we try to fit in within that pyramid, if you will. But the biggest thing is the coordination of all three of those is where like the gems are really unlocked.
It is, and it's crazy how much the nervous system remembers.
Oh
It
yeah.
and how it gets programmed without us even realizing it. It's
Totally.
quite interesting. It really is. So then, in your opinion, you kind of alluded to this, what kind of dogs then benefit most from chiropractic care? Like if someone's like, I've never thought about this for my dog is healthy, or my dog has these issues, like who do you think is best served getting these adjustments or realignments or like your hands on them?
Yeah, I mean, we always say like womb to tomb, right? So like puppies all the way through like dogs in their golden years that just need a little extra support, but it really is like the full range, and that's because every animal has a nervous system. So if they have a nervous system, it can be optimized, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times what we'll talk about initially, and it's kind of what attracts the owners, right? Because you have to help the animals through the owners naturally. So a lot of times what'll get an owner's attention is a pain-based symptom. So the dogs are struggling to stand up from laying down. They're not wanting to jump on and off the couch or the bed anymore. There's like unexplained limping, or they're playing in the backyard and they like end up laying down without continuing to play. There are some of these signs that are a lot of pain-based mechanisms, and you kind of just heard us talking about the environmental mechanisms as well, or that internal function. I think as we connect the dots, the initial breakthrough point for a lot of owners is you can see a lot of I put quotes around this, but like a quick fix on the pain side of things. Because again, chiropractic, we are really good at helping animals out of these really sore spots and tough areas and disc injuries and things like that. But then the long-term stability and optimal wellness comes with the other items, the internal functions. And that's what Brianna was mentioning from like womb to tomb, because early on the puppies they're usually functioning really well, and we just need to maintain that. And then the golden years are like, okay, we've had 10 years of wear and tear on these joints and spine and nervous system. And it's all about kind of recovery into the wellness at that point.
Yeah.
So then what, and I know this from my own experience, me going to see my chiropractor. And so I think something then it sounds like it's probably good for pet owners to know this is not going to be like a one and done situation. Like this is something that, the more we do it, then probably the better off their pet is or more
Yeah.
consistent.
Something called neuroplasticity, right? So that's like your nervous system's strength and resilience towards making a change. So when we are, like you already said, kind of that wiring and programming, like our nervous system has an incredible way of remembering, and our muscles and tissues kind of go along with that, right? So if we are trying to make a change in the body, initially our body's going to fight that a little bit. It's just like going and like working out for the first time, right? Like you're a little bit like you get a little sore, you're a little like resistant, you're like, oh my gosh, my whole body's like fatigued. But then the more you keep doing it, that strength and resiliency builds up to where you're actually reaching the goals that you want. So in the beginning, especially if we have like a symptom that is arising and we're trying to get ahead of it, then the more frequency and repetition in the beginning is usually better to make that long-term change. The last thing we want is for every animal that comes in to see us to just be in that yo-yo of like, okay,
Yeah.
we're better and we're back down again. And then we'll see you in 6 months. And then we're like, it's just constant. So if we can just get that repetition ahead of time, then it's like smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, like a little sneak peek is we'll put together like a game plan for the individual animal. So if they're coming in purely just they want a wellness tune-up, sometimes we'll just check them every couple months and we're just like, hey, your nervous system's functioning great,
Yeah.
you're good to go, and oh, there's a little tweak here, a little tweak there, that's all good. Then you have the opposite. We've had the years of wear and tear, we've had this problem that's been there for a while, and it's like, okay, let's just dedicate a short period of time, fix that issue, and then we can get to those like tune-ups down the line, if you will. It's a little more complex than that, but at the end of the day, the muscle memory is a very real thing. That tissue plasticity, the nervous system plasticity, a lot of that leads to this healing that a lot of owners don't even think is possible at first. But if you can unlock that like one piece at a time, it's actually really impressive. And people go through it and rave, about all those massive miracle changes and all
Yeah.
that. And when you start to see it on the animals, like we've been fortunate enough to in our office, it's amazing. It's really exciting.
And I really like how you said like the individual pet, because that is something that I harp in a good way to pet owners, like giving them this like sigh of relief that like no two dogs are the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think it like actually gives us a lot more freedom that way than thinking that they're all the same.
Yep.
We try and put them in this box that's not their box. It's like when we were in like or preschool, we're learning our shapes, and we're trying to put like a circle and a square and a triangle, and it's
Yeah.
like trying to make all these dogs fit into this one size peg when they're all uniquely different. Their star may have 7 points to it instead of 5 or 4 or
Yeah.
6. And so I'm really happy to hear you guys also take that approach for them, because I'm sure for you, two dogs coming in limping on a back leg, they're completely different, even though they're presenting
Exactly.
the same issue.
And it's the same with people, right? If you have like a 17-year-old that had an incident at football practice versus a 90-year-old lady who's like walking in on a walker and they both have sciatica running down their legs, those are different game plans. Those need different levels of care. So the animals are no different. It's something we really struggle to agree with if we see a doc that will do any sort of cookie cutter game plan. And I think that that's really important to tailor each individualized game plan to that individual, whether it's a person or an animal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then that makes me think of, what is something that most pet parents wouldn't think of, but you seen as an improvement from an adjustment or maybe several adjustments, but it's something maybe a pet parent wouldn't think could be possible, like maybe like a value add or a side benefit.
That's a good question.
I love that question. I would say like initially what brings a lot of animals into our office is some sort of like visible sign and symptom, and like a lot of the times it is pain related, but when they start to see like, oh, my dog's like skin and coat texture is better, or their activity is better, or they're sleeping better, or they have better appetite, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, nothing changed but the adjustments, and we were just giving their body the right environment to like function better and heal and do what it's meant to do. But I would say, like, kind of on the flip side of that, we love to see puppies because and kittens too, like all just young beings, but the first misalignment in the spine can actually happen at birth as they're traveling through the birth canal. But those signs and symptoms might not show up until they're like 2, 3, 4 years old. And it's like, oh, that was sitting there for quite a while and affecting their development. It just wasn't symptomatic until later. So whenever we see owners coming in, they're just like, oh, I just want my puppy to get checked. Like they're crazy. They're always jumping off the bed and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, we're uncovering stuff
Mhm.
that would have affected their development long term. But if we're able to get ahead of it now, that maybe other people would say, oh, it's, that thing is normal, like picky eating is normal. They'll grow out of it, but they never grow out of it. They just grow into it and it manifests in a different way.
And to like relate that back to people as well, I find the best analogies like go back to people because they
Easy
resonate.
for us to relate to.
Yeah, exactly,
Yep.
right? You ever see like those kids between like ages 3 to 5 that develop ADHD and autism, but it's from constant pressure on the nervous system that could have originated at birth. We say the same thing with the puppies and kittens. We do a lot of like wellness checks early on, and what we find is that as time goes on past that, the growth and development stages, we just really hit those milestones, and not only that, but exceed past what initially was capable given other sort of restrictions in the environment or whatever it might be. And the other thing, just to add on what Dr. Brianna was saying, the nervous system having that sympathetic, like that fight or flight nervous system, and then the parasympathetic, that rest and digest nervous system, we need both of them. But when we come across an animal that has a lot of one of them, say you're super low energy, depressed, like something's up, like doesn't really want to go on walks, anything like that. Those dogs are telling us something in their nervous system. And then you see the exact opposite. Everybody knows those hyper, maybe very anxious dogs as well. They're trying to tell us something also. And so that balance or yin and yang, if you will, in the nervous system, those are some of those unexpected changes that we really see improve the quality of life within the individual a lot of times in the dogs too and cats because they can't tell us otherwise, you know?
Mhm.
Yes, that made me think of two questions. And Dr. Brianna, you said it about like the puppies going through the birth canal. Have
Mhm.
you seen, I don't know if you know this, if even pet parents sometimes may not even know this because they're getting the dog from a shelter, or maybe they're getting it from a breeder and it's later than like a typical breeding litter would go to their homes. Have you noticed any difference in puppies that were C-section versus like natural birth? Or you guys don't get to know who is C-section and who's not?
It's such a great question, and I can't answer that on the animal side because I haven't
I
experienced
don't
that,
think we've
but
come across yet.
I can on the people side. And what's very interesting is that if you watch videos of like a human C-section birth, it can be like very intense to watch, right? Grabbing by the neck, kind of twisting and pulling as they come out of the womb. So that interaction right there, all of the bones of a baby, and this goes for puppies and kittens as well, are so malleable. Their joints aren't completely formed yet. They're not completely fused yet. So it's really easy for those shifts to happen. And their tissues are like just loose, and they're like rolling their heads around, they're just like super floppy. So that interaction right there, the slightest bit of trauma and kind of pressure can really change how their body is then developing from that point forward. So I can't answer it on the animal side, but we definitely see that change with people, and that whenever they're able to pass through the birth canal naturally, it's a little bit easier on the body than it is
Yeah.
through that twist and turn.
And I think a lot of times we catch the animals a little too far past that. It's like
I know.
after maybe after some issues have manifested. I would love to know like the exact mechanisms that we typically see between those two. All we know is that a lot of times when people get the animal, it's like after 8 weeks, give or take, and they just don't hear the story, right? They don't hear that story.
I don't. And the other thought I thought about it is like how, because the whole body, like they're just one big ecosystem, just like we are. And then how passing through the birth canal, they get natural like microorganisms,
Yep.
and how like that affects the nervous system. And so it's really cool that there's pros and cons to, I guess you could say, almost both.
Yeah.
Things to watch out for, things to maybe help mitigate. And so I was like, I know, because I see dogs all the time, and especially if you're getting in a shelter, you have no idea how this dog was brought into the world. But I was like,
Sure.
that would be really interesting. And so you kind of alluded to this. Can misalignments then, and you alluded to this in two ways, behavior, and they can't talk to us. And so can misalignments really affect their behavior when maybe their behaviors are being blamed on things that aren't the true root cause?
Yeah, I mean, dogs especially cope in different ways, and cats too. I actually have a cat right now that keeps like fighting at its tail, and it's because its low back is so misaligned and
Yeah.
there's so much pressure that it's getting some sort of sensation through its tail, and so it keeps chasing it. But every time it gets adjusted, the owners are like, oh my gosh, she's good for like a week. She doesn't chase it at all. So they cope in weird ways, and this can be like destructive behavior in the home. This can be eating weird things like reactivity, or just like peeing in the house. Like sometimes when those behaviors especially ramp up later, it's like, okay, what happened during that pivot point there that really caused everything to go out of whack? So we see that a lot. But like he was saying, on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's like, oh, if they're really withdrawn, if they're like depressed, they don't want to do any activities, their appetite is low, it's like they might be stuck in one end of the nervous system or the other. They're either in sympathetic overdrive and like hyper and destructive and everything's crazy and reactive, or they're like hyper parasympathetic mode, or maybe they're in some discomfort where they're getting really withdrawn from all their normal behaviors and activities.
Like, you know how bad I want to be Dr. Doolittle and just like chat with these animals and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, give me your full history. How you doing? When did this start? How did
Yes. And like,
it's
did you
like,
take a pill when your parents weren't home? And so,
yeah,
and
that's it.
think about it, last week, my dog took it. I wasn't home, but I was told that my dog took a tumble off the bed, which isn't like him. And I was like, oh my gosh, is he okay? And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, if I fell out of my bed, I would be seeing my chiropractor because
Right.
I
That's
know,
it.
I know I would be misaligned. I see my chiropractor every week because I will keep you guys in business because I'm a CrossFitter. And so
Yeah,
There you
nice.
like I'm like, and I tell my chiropractor all the time, I'm like, I don't know how people who do this don't see a chiropractor regularly. Like,
go.
I don't understand because it's the one thing keeping me mobile and younger, but also it's the one thing that I need to see you because I know I'm getting my body in misalignment. And so
And yeah, the sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The one thing I just wanted to expand on what Dr. Brianna was saying is the behaviors, it's one of our favorite things to talk about. And what we'll often see in the office is like a pain-based behavior in an animal. So a good example of this is if I was really sore, like I don't know if you ever get this, like do you ever get a little grumpy when you get sore, like "Ah, I don't really want to talk to anybody, I'm really hurting today," or something like that. If you see an animal that starts to get, they kind of back up into the corner, somebody comes and rings the doorbell, instead of them running up to the door, they kind of go into the other room and shy away, or they don't come and greet somebody at the door. A lot of times we find that's a pain mechanism where they're like, hey, I can't really protect myself or my family. Let me go ahead and shy away a little bit. The opposite also happens when you have an animal that all of a sudden you're like, whoa, whoa, what's going, why are you lashing out? This is Frank, the postman. Like you have no issues with him. And all of a sudden now they're like barking like crazy at the door, or the cats are getting really angry with just a new individual, whatever it is. That aggressive behavior is also a protection mechanism. They say, or I imagine they say, if I was Dr. Doolittle, that hey, I can't protect myself. Let me go overboard. Let me scare away the threat, if you will. So those are kind of two extremes.
Mhm.
There are some in between, but as a protection mechanism when in pain, that behavior shift is like, whoa, why is Fluffy doing this? They've never done that ever. It's a good indicator, just something to keep an eye out for that we talk with our owners about a lot.
That is such a great point, and we have to think. I have a dog, I don't have a cat, but I know cats do a lot of jumping, but we have to think for how mobile they are and how agile they can be running in the yard and they slip, or, they're walking and a dog comes at them and then they get yanked, or I mean, there's jumping on and off the bed all the time. That'd be like us doing box jumps all day long. Like, yeah, they probably do need these maintenance
Yeah.
visits. It's incredible when you start thinking about like how, like what our pet does on an average day. And if we were doing that in our own version, how we would probably end up in some form of misalignment.
Yeah, totally. And there are actually, especially in a dog's spine, there are a couple different whiplash zones just because they are like this to the ground, right? Where we are
Horizontal. Yep.
upright. So if we are in a car accident, right, and our head goes like this, they actually experience that same thing, just even jumping down off the couch or off the bed. They get that little bit of a whiplash at the base of their neck, in their mid back, where they transition from like their rib cage to their low back, and then right at the base of the low back and transition to the pelvis. So they have three different spots that are kind of always under that little bit of extra stress. And those are some areas that we find the most misalignments in dogs consistently just because of that motion.
Yeah, it's like your dachshunds, your long and skinny dogs, that middle
Especially them.
back,
Yeah.
like that middle back takes a big whipping motion. And for those listening, I'm using a horizontal line with my hands, but that whipping in the middle is the biggest portion where like the long skinny dogs will take. You see like German shepherds with their angled back hips, that kind of downward motion in the hips. It's actually right in their low back and pelvis that tends to get the most whipping motion with that up and down jumping, like in and out of the car, off those higher beds, things like that. And then you also have your thick like Frenchies, pugs, like those just thicker dogs that are heavier around the neck. When they're jumping, we tend to see a ton of disc injuries in the base of the neck, because where the neck connects to that mid back, that's the ultimate whiplash zone for them, being so front heavy in there too.
So basically, I mean, we talked about this earlier. Every dog or cat has a qualification to be seen, but especially if they're getting up and down off furniture all day long.
Yeah.
Any sort of jumping, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you take it like way back and you think of wolves out in the wild, it's a lot of their movement would have been horizontal across land. They're not jumping up and down out of the car 10 times a day, right? This is a lot of across land horizontal motion. And sure, there's going to be some up and downward motion, but they're in full control of that. And what we see with when dogs get bred over time, they just can't protect themselves the same way for the day-to-day people motions that we ask of them.
Yeah.
That's things that just make you go, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Really. So
Yeah.
what are some signs that at home for someone, maybe they've never even seen a chiropractor. So they're like, this is so new to me. I've never seen one. I didn't even know my dog or my cat could see one. What are things at home that they could be clued into other than, okay, my dog or cat jumps on their cat tree or they jump on and off the bed? What are other signs that they could look for to be like, okay, this is something I really need to consider
Yeah.
having my pet seen for?
Well, there are kind of, to answer that question, we kind of function in like there are two different mindsets, right? We have like proactivity and like focusing on longevity. And then we also have like reactivity or like a problem that exists right now that we need to take care of. So there are a lot of behaviors within that of like, okay, maybe they're limping, maybe they've slowed down, maybe they're, not wanting to eat certain foods anymore, maybe their skin is breaking out all over the place, or,
Sure.
we've seen some sort of change in their behavior. Those are like instant signs that are like, if you mark any of those, probably time to just get them checked, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, if we're just thinking about, hey, how can we optimize their health? My dog does jump up on the couch every day, and my dog does kind of run in the yard a lot, and they're jumping in the air to catch a frisbee, all of those things. It's like, how can we just optimize their state and make sure they are functioning at their best possible capacity for longevity, and they can live even longer, happier, healthier lives? So
Yeah.
there's kind of like two ends of the spectrum, and like you said, there are like multiple qualifications in like any state of life to be seen
Yeah.
by a chiropractor to have your nervous system checked. But those are kind of like what I would say to listeners are some things that you can keep an eye out for right away.
And it's the classic, like they're struggling to get up from laying down, or they're slipping on tile floors, whereas they can only walk on carpet comfortably now. Any unexplained limping, like what we were talking about, but like paw licking, scratching, those are other signs as well. If you ever like fell asleep, where you kind of pinch a nerve in your neck and your arms falling asleep, and you wake up and you're like shaking your hand out, if you tried to go do a push-up, that'd be pretty uncomfortable. But with our four-legged friends, they have to put some weight on that foot right away. So sometimes they get that pins and needles sensation or something like that. So they'll lick or chew at their paw. And a lot of owners, like, they'll go and check it, like, oh, is something going on? Is there anything going on? It's like, no, that might just be that tingling type sensation. We see a lot of that with that traveling type nerve pain, or, kind of kink in the hose, if you will. And I just think a lot of times, as we address those issues, the best case scenarios that we end up like celebrating the owners for is like an owner that comes in like, hey, I know my dog roughhouses at the park. I just want to get them checked to make sure all is good. And that's like best case scenario, because it's like, okay, the owner knows what's going on. Their dogs are crazy at the parks. They're just trying to get on top of the issue before it even arises. It's kind of that proactivity, if you will, but they're really trying to create health within the dog rather than just react to issues. That is best case scenario.
Yeah.
It is that's it's just so interesting, and you can almost like tie back to nutrition, because I tell pet owners that like you can be proactive or we can be reactive, and when we're reactive, sometimes we don't have as much runway as if
Right.
we're being proactive. It's like I imagine like a big airplane, big commercial jet. That's why they take off from the back of the runway, because they have more time to have momentum.
Yeah.
Versus if you put them in the middle of the runway, they're not going to successfully or take off very well, or they're going to burn a lot of fuel. And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, yes, there are times where unfortunately we have to be reactive because things pop up that we're not expecting, or a dog falls off the bed, or there are times where we have to be, there's acute matters. But the more
Yeah.
proactive we can be, the more runway we have. And so it's
Yeah.
interesting to see the connection between the chiropractic work and nutrition, and how there's a lot of similarities in and responses and kind of categories on when people come to me for nutrition consults, and I see a lot more sick pets than I do well. But some people will come to me like, my dog's healthy, I just want to keep him that way, and I don't want to do traditional things, or my dog is way underweight, this is the last stitch effort, this is the one in a million, let's give it the Hail Mary. And it's like, we're going to try, but we have less runway and we're trying to take off a big jet. And so it's
Yeah.
things that are non-traditional really can make a big impact in their life. And so what would
That's
you tell people who are looking for someone like you? Maybe they're in South Carolina listening to this, and they're like, I would love to take a vacation to Bradenton, but I just can't come down there all the time. So what would you tell someone who's looking for someone like you, how to know that someone is like truly qualified to do this on their animal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when choosing a chiropractor, so we sat in our animal chiropractic licensing, we sat in that with veterinarians. So you can have a veterinarian or a chiropractor, their original trade, and then they go into animal chiropractic. So we sat with DVMs, and we're doctors of chiropractic, or DC. So both very well qualified. I think it really depends on the individual. So a couple key things that we will look for in an animal chiropractor is their certification. So we like the AVCA, American Veterinary Chiropractic Association, AVCA, or IVCA, International Veterinary Chiropractic Association. Both of those have great hands-on adjusting skills that are built within the program, if you will. And the hands-on adjusting, we are very biased in this, just as a little tidbit, but the amount of tailored approach that you can do by physically adjusting with the hands versus instrument adjusting, we're very passionate about that. I think what's also difficult maybe for an owner to initially understand, but something that over time you can see the value in it, is the level of specificity within the docs. So um, on the people side of our office, we value specificity and we explain it in the technique that we utilize. It's called the Gonstead system for our people. And then we apply as many of those principles as possible to our animal chiropractic adjusting. So when we're aiming to help the nervous system, we have to be able to track variables and we have to be able to identify and address kind of the one source of the problem at a time. So there are times that we're adjusting animals and we'll adjust maybe one, two, at most three segments on that visit because we want to be able to track what's helping or not helping. Then you have other animal chiropractors out there where they're adjusting like 12, 18 segments. And it's like, okay, that's going to become really difficult to track what's helping, what's not helping. How is the animal progressing? Are there changes needing to be made? Well, which one was it? That type of understanding. So we definitely value the specificity above most else. That being said, as somebody getting started in animal chiropractic, I highly recommend finding somebody maybe that's close to you that works on that type of animal. So a lot of our equine animal chiropractic friends, like that's what they do. They work on the horses. That's what they want to do. They become really good at that. And although there are some chiropractors that work on horses that also help a ton of small animals as well, if that's not their niche thing, sometimes it's worth, pursuing, oh, let me get a different opinion from somebody who primarily does that, or so be it. Other times, just given the amount of animal chiropractors that are out there, you might have one option in like 30-mile radius. So
Yeah.
it's beggars can't be choosers, but at the same time, you don't want to give up hope if that isn't the exact right solution at that moment. Kind of like if you have a bad haircut, you don't just give up on cutting your hair.
Yeah.
Want to get a different opinion and pursue a different course of action, if that makes sense, from a different doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically for pet owners, what they first need to be looking at to like peel back the layers or like the stepwise is like, is this person a DC and a doctor of chiropractic, or are they a veterinarian? Like if
Yes,
they're not
exactly.
one of those, probably pass on it. And
Yeah,
then
well, it's not there. They wouldn't be able.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
not.
Step one.
That's a red flag. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a red flag. Yeah.
And so, well, again, I think that's good to know because there are so many people entering the pet space to be coaches and this and that. And I think it's good to help pet owners know like what noise to cut out. And if it's not one of those two professional doctors,
Yeah.
to bypass it and then to look at those two qualifications essentially that you mentioned. And so it made me, when you said that to me, you're like, we try and do minimalistic segments versus a whole bunch. I can relate to that because it was funny when I started seeing my chiropractor 6 years ago, but actually a little bit longer. In the beginning, she could only do certain things in my neck. Like she had like two or three, and that's all she could do because I would be so sore that it was like miserable.
Yeah.
My body had to get used to like going back to how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And now I'm like do a home run, girl. Like you can now my body's used to it and it actually craves being aligned. And now I know when I'm not aligned, I can actually like tell her, I'm like, oh, I think it's my occiput versus my atlas versus my
Nice, nice.
and she'll almost always, she's like, yep. And it's because, but in the beginning, my body didn't know how to handle going back to how it was supposed to because it had been out for so long. And I think that I can tell that to her, but our pets can't. And so that's also, I think, really good advice for you to say, like, maybe it's simple is best because if you do too much, they can't tell us.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we can read them, but there may be little things that they can't that are happening at the nervous system level that we can't maybe pick up on. Or, the pet parents that are working 8 or 9 hours a day and they're only home for a small window, they're not picking up maybe on how their pet is doing. And so I think that's a really good tip to provide that. Yes, sometimes those are needed, but especially if your dog's or cat's never been exposed to a chiropractor, simple is best till they get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like walking down like the strip in Vegas for the first time. It's like very overstimulating, right? There's like lots of lights, lots of people, like lots of stuff happening, lots of like newness. So your nervous system is like super overstimulated with all that stuff. Versus if you like just do a walk in nature where there's like nothing around, you're like very at peace, very calm. So if we take that minimalistic approach, it's less overstimulation and more focus on what the body really needs to heal. And just like he said too, tracking variables one thing at a time. That way we know as their provider that we're actually on the right track to getting them to their goals.
Yeah, and you actually said something that was really good, just about how aware you become of your body. And people notice this a lot as they're getting adjusted, but the owners notice it on their animals a lot too, where they're like, yep, they started tucking their tail down again. They used to hold it up and they started dropping it again. Time to get them checked. And obviously, in that case, the owners are just learning the behaviors that are visible in their animals that would indicate there's some sort of extra pressure going on in the nervous system there too. And so, yeah, you notice that yourself. Listen, you are such a CrossFitter. You get it. The way you were preaching that was great.
If you retire, I'm haunting you because I can't. And luckily enough, she's younger, that's not gonna happen for a while. And I'm like, no, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, I literally want to scoop everybody up at CrossFit and be like, if you're not seeing a chiropractor, like the math ain't mathin' here. So
Yeah,
you should. So
that's
then
funny.
I thought of this too. So because we were talking about behavior, and I'm sure you have seen dogs that maybe have been reactive or aggressive. They need to be muzzled. Maybe they need oral calming medications. Do you feel like that influences the responses that you're seeing or what you're able to pick up on them? Like if someone's like my dog
Mhm.
is very nervous and needs oral calming medications to go in the car, or they're reactive and they're fear related aggression, obviously you have to be able to handle them safely and
Yeah,
we want a good experience. Like where do you navigate that line on, like,
right.
do you feel like, okay, yes, let's do it, we need to, or at some point do we stop to assess?
That's
Such a
a
great
great
question.
question.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you the number of times that an animal has come in aggressive in the beginning and then halfway through care, we have a great relationship with them and it's like amazing and good to go. And it's because they have so much either pent up anxiety and like overstimulation in their body that all of that reactivity was them coping with what's going on internally, or they were in so much pain that they were getting nippy with everybody, and once that pain is taken away then they're just like happy and they can actually be themselves.
Yeah.
There are definitely times where we muzzle though, and that's just like it's purely like a behavioral thing, and that's just like who they are, and
They just have a lot to say.
we just meet them where they're at. Yeah, they
Yeah.
just have a
They
lot to
just have a lot to
say.
say to us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's good. That's a
I
good.
think it's fun that we're able to create that safe space for any situation that comes in and just
Yeah.
meeting them where they're at. We've only had maybe like 2 times where we had to like turn an animal away just because we couldn't even get our hands on them. It was like so
Yeah.
intense. But that is very, very rare. And we really try to just like bond with them, meet them where they're at, build as much rapport so they feel safe and comfortable. We also want this to be like a good experience for the owner too, because if anybody has had a cat that's just mayhem at the vet, or, a really aggressive dog, like it's, you almost feel that like shame or like discomfort taking them anywhere. So the last thing we want is for the owner to feel like this is like a traumatic experience for them as well. So if we
Yeah.
just create that safe space where everybody feels comfortable and we just do what we need to do to get the job done and
Yeah.
let them start healing, then that's
I
the
mean,
way to roll.
we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot because we wear scrubs, and every dog that sees scrubs is instantly, this is, I'm scared, right? And so the first visit, what we'll typically do is we spend about 45 minutes talking with the owner, understanding a history, how we got to where we are. We bribe a ton with like, listen, healthy treats, trust me. And then we bribe a lot early on, get the kind of relationship going, but then we're just chatting for a bit with the owner so the animal can calm down a bit. We find that works really well. Just they get to experience the space in our like office. When we adjust animals, it's literally like a mat on the floor, a little adjusting block, and then nothing else except for the seats where the owners are sitting and where we sit. So it keeps it very bare minimum. So as we come in, like what Dr. Brianna was saying, but the third or fourth visit, most of the time the animals are like, oh, okay, no thermometer checks, no needles. Like, okay, this is a different experience. So then you see that personality shift. The times that we do have to turn pups away are when they are maybe like squirming so much, because we don't go under anesthesia, we don't do any sort of like
Restraint.
sedation. The restraint we do is actually more supporting for the adjustments, because people, we put them on chiropractic tables that provide the counter pressure, whereas animals, we have our assistants actually help provide counter support to the adjustments, and we typically are adjusting them standing. Sometimes we're laying on the ground. We get in all sorts of goofy spots, but the main thing is that we're not really trying to restrain the animals more so than just meet them where they are, like what Dr. Brianna was saying. The times that we can't adjust are when they are so wiggly that us trying to move forward would actually just negatively impact their health. And we say, you know what, let's try a different day. And if at that point, that if we try a different day and it's not the best fit, we do just have to refer them out. And it's understandable. But again, I think that's happened twice since we've been open. So most of the time we can get there.
It's really promising. So if someone was on the fence about trying it, what would you want them to know about it? Or like, what is one thing you wish people would know if they're on the fence or just in general about animal chiropractic care?
Honestly, I think, yeah, one of my favorite ways to like describe this mindset too is imagine walking into your kitchen and like the power is out, right? The lights are off, the microwave's not working, food is starting to get spoiled in the fridge. Your instant gut response isn't to go and buy a new microwave, right? Like, why would we do that? That would like make no sense. If you bought that new microwave and you put it in, it still wouldn't work because the power was out. So what you would do instead is go to the electrical panel, look at the switches, find the one that's flipped, and then flip it so that the power's turned back on. That's our job as chiropractors, is to find the switches that need flipped and flip them so that all of the power is restored. Versus a lot of like the mainstream and kind of traditional route is to either do some sort of medication or some sort of procedure, and it's quieting all the symptoms, but those symptoms are literally the check engine lights. That's like so important. They are telling us, hey, this is what's going on, and they're all, guiding us in the right direction of where the problem actually lies. So we don't want to just like silence the symptoms and ignore the problem. We want the symptoms to be there so that we find our way, and then the body will heal itself and all those symptoms will start to take care of themselves.
Yes, yeah.
That's so good because it made me just think of the example of that was a very visual example that I literally could imagine. It's like someone not checking their panel switch, and it's like, I'm just going to get a generator and I'm just going to hook up the generator. And it's like, okay,
Right.
you can, or you can figure out why you don't have power in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The generator.
Yeah. And the generator is going to cost like what, couple, tens of thousands of dollars versus.
And the generator's there when you can't restore the power because it's out of your control. But if it's in your control, don't go to the generator. Just go to your power switches. So good.
Yeah. See, you get it. You got it. So the other thing I like to say a lot is that the difference when you tie in environment, nutrition, and neurology, like the neurological health, when you tie those three things in, you're changing the animal's life by a factor of like years, right? So if you get like as a puppy, right? If this animal lived in the best environment with the best possible nutrition, with the best possible nervous system, that translates to years of a different life, like maybe longevity of the life, the quality of the life, whatever that turns into. And it's not to like step on toes or anything, but a lot of people work within what they can do and they want to provide the best for their animals. And so if those three things are met, that's really where we see those gems go. So if the timeline is of the essence and the quality of the life is of the essence, those are the three things we need to focus on. Now, and don't get me wrong, we have our emergency situations, right? Like sometimes there's emergency surgery that just needs to happen, like what you were saying with the generator. Like sometimes we just need it, right? And then at the end of the day, if we can get back to the roots of those three items, that's really like longevity and wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why, like you said in the beginning, chiropractic has become so taboo, is because it seemed like this other thing that just like hangs out in this weird realm over here, but we have like all of our mainstream stuff. And what you do as well is like break that barrier to, hey, maybe let's start focusing on how to build from the ground up. And then all these other things are here when we need it, right? And when that crisis happens. But if we focus on like almost like brushing your teeth, right? We don't wait for a cavity to come up to start brushing our teeth. It's something we do daily. So if we just have a regimented, hey, these are my core values, nervous system health, nutrition, movement, if these are the core values, we can create longevity instead of waiting for a crisis to come up and then trying to rewind the clock and having a shorter runway, like you said. So that would be my best advice to listeners that don't, haven't experienced chiropractic themselves or don't know where to start. You can start at any time. It's never too late or too early.
Lengthen that runway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So where can people learn more or connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook. We also have a website. We have a lot of videos on our Instagram as well. It's just trilogy.chiropractic. So, and going back to your question too of how can people in other states like find chiropractors, I would say like looking them up on social media and seeing like videos, and that way you understand like what you're getting involved with and you can trust that provider a little more. We have lots of videos on our social media, so just
Yeah.
take a look at those if you want to know more of what that visit looks like and what adjustments look like and some of the educational pieces too. That's a good place to
So our office Instagram posts a lot of like fun reels and fun journeys, but my personal Instagram, so Dr. Paul Cundiff, I post a lot of like animal journeys. So it's almost all animal chiropractic, even though I see both people and animals, but the animal stuff is, I think, more fun to watch. So that's what we post. Yeah. Yeah.
So awesome. And I'll make sure that that's all in the show notes, whether they're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple.
Great.
Cool.
That
Thank you.
they can find you either in person or connect with you virtually. I really appreciate you both taking the time to educate, and no joke, now I want to get my dog loaded up and come see you in Bradenton because
Oh my gosh.
like
That's
he's 8 and he's never had a chiropractic adjustment, and I can only imagine how much it would benefit him.
Yeah, we'd be happy to see it.
Yeah, we appreciate your kindness.
Yeah.
This has been a fun journey and really excited to follow how you progress in your journey as well. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having us. This has been a really fun chat, but also just to see the like-minded individuals wanting to help the animals, wanting to help the owners of the animals. It's been awesome to follow your journey, and actually, we can't wait to kind of see how you take off and keep running the show here. This is great.
I feel the same about you guys. We are out there doing the non-traditional things.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's great.
Exactly.
Love it.
Love it.
It's been great. Thanks for being on.
Of course. Thanks for
Thank
having us.
you.